Hello, everyone, and welcome this evening, Tuesday, the 19th of August. Tonight, it's the first episode of season 2 on Unplugged with Rose. My name is Roslyn Miner, and I'm very, very happy to have you all join us this evening. Tonight, we are having a very interesting discussion, and it's on L&D. The topic of tonight is build versus buy, the great L&D dilemma. And I will be joined by my fellow HR colleague, John Fumba. As is the norm, I will start the session by sharing a few statistics on L&D and the benefits of investing in L&D in an organization. So, to start us off, 94% of employees say that they'll stay longer if their company invested in their career development. So you can see that L&D has a positive impact on higher retention. Companies that invest in L&D see engagement levels that are 3.5% higher than those that don't. So we have an aspect of better engagement. In terms of employee tenure, we have employees at companies with internal mobility, learning and development, learning and growth opportunities stay 2 times longer on average. Now, going by today's discussion, which is do we build or do we buy? It's 6 times cheaper to build than to buy. Reskilling an existing employee can be up to 6 times more cost effective than hiring a new one. We all know the challenges when you have new employees and induction. So, yes, it is cheaper to reskill an existing employee than to, train a new hire. When it comes to companies that are reskilling, 6 out of 10 of organizations already have programs to retrain their employees. So we can all appreciate that learning and development is a key engagement pillar in any organization. Now, before I hand over to my colleague John Fumba, I would like to mention that on the YouTube channel, on the comment section, and also on the LinkedIn Live comment section, we have indicated a menti.com code because today we will be having live surveys. So please take a moment to look at the comment section and take note of the menti.com code that has been shared. John, karibu sana. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'm so grateful and looking forward to this conversation. Do we build or do we buy? The great L&D dilemma. Karibu sana. John?
Thank you so much, Rose, for inviting me to this session and this particular presentation and this session. I really appreciate, and I think it's good to partner with you. Thank you so much, especially on this great topic that we battle with as L&D practitioners every day. The strategic decision, L&D roadmap, do I build or buy the solution? Rosa shares the stats. And the stats are very interesting in the sense that it may be cheaper to appear cheaper to buy. Cheaper to build versus buy. However, as we walk through this conversation, which will be highly interactive, would like to hear your input through the chat and through the Mentimeter. We are going to see that sometimes not everything that is cheap will have impact. And so at the end of the day, it's the impact of our intervention that counts. Let me not preempt that discussion. Let me first of all start by introducing myself, John Fumba. I've been there in this space for close to 20 years. The last 3 years of my career, L&D career, I spent heading an academy in one of the global banks. And that academy was responsible for building a specific capability, cloud computing capability, which is Salesforce. And actually, that academy was the only academy among all the Salesforce clients. So I love what I do, being in the L&D space. having run L&D in an institution for more than 10 years and 3 years running an academy in a global-based company. So I've really enjoyed that. And what I'm about to share with you is based on my own research, my own experiences, the different fields. Let me quickly walk you through what we discussed today. We've already done the introduction and welcome. I start by first of all unpacking what we really mean by build and buy in our context. So the concepts we're using, build and buy, what do they really mean? Then I'll touch on build approach, but I'll discuss in-house academies as the last topic, and not the second topic. I'll just touch on it initially. But we're going to talk about, the buy approach, pros and cons. We'll also talk about the key factors for your decision, and ultimately, how can we integrate and buy and build decisions optimally so that we're able to achieve the best for our interventions. How does that sound, Rose, in terms of our agenda?
It sounds like an action-packed, very interactive, very educative session. And I'm wondering, do we ask our first question in terms of what tools people might be using for those who might have joined us, or do we hold that off slightly?
Absolutely. I think we can ask that question on
Okay,
Mentimeter. Let's go right straight to Mentimeter and see what our participants have to say.
right. Just a minute. So on our screen, just reshare that again. So I'm not sure if everyone can see what we have on the screen.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Brilliant. So, for those that have joined us online, our first question is, which generative AI tool are you deploying in your current L&D practice? So, as mentioned on YouTube, on the comment section, we have the Mentimeter code shared, and also on LinkedIn, we also have on the comment section the Mentimeter code that has been shared. Also, feel free to scan the QR code currently on the screen, and I will share the results as soon as they start filtering in. In the meantime, John, we can proceed as we wait for people to indicate what generative AI tools they are using in their L&D practice. John, I'm afraid your audio is...
Thank you, Rose.
Maybe you can share your screen again.
Thank you, Rose, for that. Apologies, everyone.
No
So
worries.
one of the current trends we see in the global L&D landscape is the rise of AI and personalized learning. So AI is now being deployed more and more across the L&D chain, and by extension the whole HR value chain. And right from doing skill gap assessment, right from creating exceptional learner experiences and creating personalized learning pathways for learners. So across the board, we are seeing more and more visual L&D. And I think the question Rose has asked at the back of this discussion is on the Mentimeter is, what tools are you using? AI tools are using, generative AI tools are using.
So far, the response we have is ChatGPT. We still don't have LMS names coming through, but I'll share the details as they filter through.
Thanks. And it's a wonderful tool, of course, and I think it definitely has its place in L&D.
Absolutely.
The other trend we are seeing is skills-based revolution. What do I mean by this? In the past, we've been seeing role-based learning
Mhm.
and us upskilling people based on on their roles and based on the competency framework that sits in those roles according to their JD, the
Mhm.
technical competencies, the soft competencies. So that if you are a developer, for instance, a software developer, your upskilling will be based on that particular role of being a software engineer or software developer, and the upskilling you get is related to the tech pieces in that particular role and the soft skills related to that particular role. But what we are seeing right now is a shift from role-based upskilling to skill-based revolution. So what is happening is we are looking at it more globally. What skills do our people need to future-proof the organization across the board, regardless the roles? And secondly, role-based upskilling was intended to build skills for a particular role, which was by extension growing someone in a particular career path that's related to that role and the roles that form a component of that career path. So skills-based revolution means that people have broad-based skills, you know, like digital skills, for instance, preparing them for the future across the board. And that the question we're asking is, before we give an or put in place an upskilling solution, rather than ask what is your role, we ask what skills do you need to deliver in that role and beyond, and to also be future ready and deliver to the strategy of the organization. So the third thing we are seeing is also flexible learning. We are seeing the emergence of a hybrid workforce since the days of COVID, people working from home during COVID. Post COVID, some organizations have a hybrid workforce, people who work from home and people who are working in the office. So in terms of L&D, what does that mean in terms of the delivering our interventions? So that presents with us a new challenge and a new opportunity at the same time. What platforms do we use to reach both um, categories of workforce in a hybrid workforce? Fourthly, what we are also seeing is, as L&D people, there is a refreshed view around L&D, no longer as a cost center, but more as a strategic partner that will add to the business and be a source of sustainable competitive advantage. So businesses are seeing L&D as a key business driver of business results. And for that reason, data-driven L&D is more emerging. So L&D interventions are informed by data. So before we put any intervention, say selling skills intervention, we ask what data informs us that we need to put that intervention in place. So it could be performance data, it could be business data, it could be our NPS scores data. Data drives L&D, and we measure our return on investment based on that data. So we look at our baseline data against the post-intervention L&D intervention data to be able to demonstrate our ROI. And the last emerging trend we'll see is this is the culture of continuous learning. It's now becoming an imperative. It's now recommended, most organizations now recommend an average of a minimum of 4 hours of learning per week. That's if that organization is going to remain relevant and future ready in the fast changing digital landscape. So I think it's important I just highlight this. Why? Because this is the context in which we make our buy or sell decision. Now, I don't know what other responses have come in the Mentimeter, but this
Uh,
slide, yes, any other additional responses, Rose?
Unfortunately, not. We still have ChatGPT as the only generative AI tool.
Good, but it's a good start.
Yes.
So beyond ChatGPT, there's such a huge opportunity for us to leverage AI and personalized learning. And what I have on this table on the extreme left-hand side column is the agent type and the kind of value it creates in L&D. I think we'll share this with you through Rose much later, and we'll spend
Yeah.
time on this table. But the
Okay.
main thing is just talk about that there are so many tools that we can leverage on. If you look at the last two columns, they talk about what tools we can leverage. It also talks about which tools are open source, which tools are not open source. We'll share with those. And there's so much opportunity for us to create value in L&D. Now, back to our topic. Given that context, buy, build, or buy decision in a strategic way. So I won't take it for granted all of us know what buy means or build is. By buy, we mean outsource the learning. That means we get an external vendor, we go through the procurement process and get an external vendor to provide the learning solution we need. By build, we mean we don't go outside. We rely in internal solutions within the organizations. So what does that mean? We rely on our own resources to provide learning solutions in-house within the organization. So I think now we are clear when Rose and I say build or buy. So what makes this strategic? It's a strategic in the sense that how you leverage both buy or build actually can be a basis for building competitive advantage for organization. Now, Rose has another Mentimeter question for us.
Yes. Just a moment. Let me share the question.
Thank you. So if the question is on your screen, the question is, sounds like approximately what percentage of your learning solutions are currently outsourced? Am I correct, Rose? That's what we have on
Yes,
the screen.
absolutely correct. Approximately what percentage of your learning solutions are currently outsourced?
Okay. So we have two options, less than 50% or over 50%.
Just to remind everyone that has joined us, if you're joining us through YouTube, on the comment section, we have the menti.com code where you can participate in this live survey. If you're joining us through LinkedIn Live, on the comment section, the code is available. Please participate in this live survey and let us have your thoughts. Approximately what percentage of your learning solutions are currently outsourced?
Thank you, Rose. I think you can let me know as the results are streaming in.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Thanks. Thank you. So whether we build or buy, whether we outsource or rely on internal solutions, there's one golden rule I would advocate, which is key to both decisions. Whether we are building or buying the learning solution, we must make sure, first of all, it's aligned to some organizational strategic imperative. It must be both business oriented and people and at the same time people centric. Now, what do I mean by this? So that means as L&D, we must be at the forefront in understanding our organization strategy, also being participants in crafting that strategy, and understanding the strategic imperative. So, for instance, if your organization is driving client centricity, for instance, and is aspiring to transform client experience, and they're going to measure that using metrics like NPS score, you know, customers retention, and so on, then that means if that's a key strategic imperative, we must be able to ask ourselves, what people capabilities must we build in order to support that strategic imperative? So if your business or organization wants to venture into some particular niche market, for instance, and that's the strategy, that could be, SME, for instance. or that could be high network clients, for instance, then those strategic imperatives must speak to how you do your build or buy decisions. In short, L&D must be aligned with strategy. So it's the core of and strategy of the business. At this point, I'll pause and ask Rose if there's anything on Mentimeter.
Yes, so far the response is 50%, over 50%. That is what we are having as the percentage of learning solutions being outsourced. I believe more responses are going to stream through, but at the moment, over 50% is taking the day.
All right. So outsourcing the learning solution is carrying the day.
Yes.
Good. Then let's look at it then. When we are making buy or build decisions, what should we consider? What are the considerations we make? And given that data we've just received, most people are buying the solution. They must be having good reasons for that, as opposed to delivering the solution internally. We look at both.
Yeah.
But when we are making buy or build solutions, what considerations shall we make? The first one, and I'll just quickly mention them, then we shall take a deep dive into them in each one of them. The first one is cost and time. How much the solution cost? How much time does it take to land? The second is strategic value. To what extent does it contribute to our strategy? The third one is customization versus scalability. To what extent can we customize, make it bespoke? At the same time, how can we scale it across the organization on large scale? And the last one, we're also looking at the risk involved in either buying or building decision, the intellectual property. Are we exposing ourselves as an organization and giving our key information to a competitor? Right? So we have to consider that. And then the last one is internal capacity versus business impact. When we choose to go in-house, we have really the capacity to deliver all the skills, deliver in a way that gives business impact. And the other one is business impact. It may be cheap to go in-house, but what's the overall business impact? At this point, I'll ask Rose if there's any change in our Mentimeter.
No, at the moment we still have the 50% outsourcing taking the day. And the other feedback we have so far when it comes to the AI generative other than ChatGPT, I can see in the comment section we have medical GPT and fast and effective MRI as part of AI generative tools used for learning.
Awesome. Good. Now that takes us to another Mentimeter question. When we are determining our decision, our first determinant, we look at cost and time. And what we're asking here is this. By cost, what do we mean? By cost, we mean how much the solution costs. When I outsource it, how much does it cost? When I build it, how much does it cost? By time, what do we mean? The length of time I take to learn the solution. So if I build it, how long does it take? But if I buy it and outsource it off the shelf, how long does it take? And that can influence my buy or sell decision. So the question is on Mentimeter. Over to you again, Rose. Our Mentimeter question related to cost and time.
Which is the biggest determinant of your buy or build L&D decision? Is it cost of the learning intervention, or is it the time taken to land the learning intervention? Just a kind reminder for you to participate in the Mentimeter, in the live surveys on the comment section on YouTube. We have the menti.com code that you can use to participate in this live survey. On LinkedIn, we also have it reflected in the comment section, where you can find the menti.com code to participate in this live survey. Let us know, what is your biggest determinant? Is it time or is it the cost?
Thank you, Rose. So as we wait for you to give feedback, I just want to talk about time and cost. And when you talk about cost, we are looking at all those costs that are involved. That when you look at the cost breakdown, so if it's an in-house solution, It will include the cost of the structural designers, project managers, for that, the subject matter experts, everything that you need to spend to build that in-house solution. And when we look at the external cost, we look at the price we are going to pay for the external cost, plus, of course, that will also include elements of, taxation over and above the price that we pay for the external cost. It will also include the follow-up cost, the after-sales service. So most vendors will price their solution in terms of the 10%, the formal learning, and the post-training interventions that they will give to support the learning, so that it's actualized and applied in the workplace. Thanks. Over to you, Rose. Any change in
Yes,
feedback in
one
Mentimeter? Yes.
the biggest determinant so far when it comes to buy or build is the cost of the learning intervention, which actually says a lot, and it's one of the challenges that a lot of HR practitioners experience when they want to invest in L&D cost.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are going to see in a short while that cost it's relative. Depends on how we view cost. When we view cost as an investment with a very clear, realizable business benefit and return on investment, the L&D will have an easier conversation discussing with their business leads. So for instance, if the business sees that whatever you're going to spend will result in the return on investment will be several times the cost spent on that learning intervention, they'll be more than willing to invest that amount rather than withhold that money and not realize that business value. So
I couldn't agree more. If I could
yes.
kindly compliment on that. You mentioned that, L&D is driven heavily on data. And therefore, when you have a solid business case where the business is struggling because a certain skill set is waning, then when you prove the value of investing in that training, definitely the business will be more than willing to support the investment because the return will override the cost at hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rose. So I think to wind up on cost and time, we'll say this. You've raised something very important, Rose, that we L&D practitioners, we need to perfect the art of putting a business case for every L&D intervention. And to Rosalind's point, support it with data. Not L&D data, business data. We should be able to demonstrate what business problem we are solving for, and therefore how much it costs to solve that business problem. So whether it is buy, whether it is build, we'll be able to sell that cost, and the organization and the decision makers will be able to make a decision based on the net realizable value they see from that investment. So I think cost is this. I think to wind up on cost is this. When do I buy this? We are going to analyze this further later, but quite often, if the cost is high, we get pushback. And what we are saying is if our return on investment is high, we shouldn't get pushback. But we should be able to justify our case and get the intervention, whether we are buying, whether we are building. Thanks. And on the issue of time, it's pointless to try and build a solution which the business needs now, and you're building it for next year. Why? You're spending time to build business capacity, build internal capacity to deliver the solution in 2026. The organization and business needs the solution now. So if you don't have internal capacity to deliver now, let's not waste time to train people so that they can train others in the organization to save money. Let's get the external solution which can create value immediately. Thank you. Let's quickly move now to the next key decision determinant, buy or sell, and that's the strategic value. Before we go to the Mentimeter question, this is when you're looking at strategic value, we're asking ourselves this question: is the training we're offering a direct source of competitive advantage, or is it for non-proprietary skills? How is it linked to us giving us a competitive advantage in the market of our competitors? So I think this is key because we need not waste time building, for instance, internal leadership skills interventions when we cannot source them. Leadership skills it's universal. It's not specialized training. It's not as specialized as product training. Product, it speaks to your organization and how your products have been designed for your customers. So that you do in-house. Of course, it goes without saying, it's no brainer that that one is a build strategy for in-house product training, things that speak to internal processes, the internal way of doing things, unique way of doing things, and create value for customers. That's a build case. But leadership skills, let's give it to the experts externally, the organizations who specialize in that, and it's the same across the board. However, I must say this with a disclaimer: such different organizations battle with different leadership skills gaps. So others, it's for instance, the battle with creating psychological safety. Others, it's a totally different dimension. It's in terms of how they manage performance and so. So I'm not saying that we don't make them bespoke, but we can still outsource them and have a solution for our leaders. Now, a Mentimeter question is this. I'll give it over to you, Rose.
The Mentimeter question is: what percentage of an organization's learning interventions should be directly aligned to the strategy? I repeat, what percentage of an organization's learning interventions should be directly aligned to the strategy? This is our fourth. This is our fourth question, and again, just a reminder to participate in this live survey. The code is available on the comment section on YouTube and also on LinkedIn Live. Under the comment section, you will find the menti.com code. Let us know what percentage of an organization's learning interventions should be directly aligned to the strategy.
Okay, thank you, Rose. We'll come back to that poll later on.
Okay.
Okay, as the results come in, feel free, Rose, once you have a reasonable amount of responses, you can always interject. So the other key determinant deciding to buy or sell, it's about customization versus scalability. Do we need to control our content? Do we need to customize it to meet our ever-changing internal requirements? Right. So if that's the case, you need such a customized solution. Probably it's good to build. Or should you buy, you should get a vendor who has capacity to customize it to your internal solutions. And you'll realize customized content is more expensive than generic content that vendors give, because there's more work that is involved. So cost will be up if you go outsource. Customized content, cost of customized content is expensive. Nevertheless, I think it's around what value do I realize vis-a-vis what I spend. We shouldn't be afraid to spend as L&D practitioners. I'm saying we shouldn't be afraid to spend, so long as it can be justified by the magnitude of the return on investment. And then the second question we ask before I hand over to Rose to give us an update: do we need a scalable solution across the organization that need not be bespoke? So if there's something we are running in the organization, it doesn't have to be bespoke. It's something that, for instance, it's a socialization, it's awareness training. Do we need really to build an in-house solution? So for instance, if we are running, for instance, AI literacy across the organization, we can outsource that and scale it rather than tie your two L&D resources to doing organization-wide training, and in the training room, in the training center, for 6 months, delivering a scaled solution. when they should be playing a strategic role of listening to the business and the pain points in the business and providing L&D solutions to those. So I think it's a big decision we need to make, even how we use our time, as in-house resources. So for us to evolve as strategic resources, we have to move from the operational to the strategic, and there's more listening in the strategic. So what I'm saying is, so it's a scalable solution. Don't waste your time. Outsource it. AI literacy, outsource it. D&I, DIE training across the organization, outsource it because it's something that cuts across the board. Rose, now maybe we can go back and get feedback. What do people say about the
The percentage.
percentage?
Okay.
Yes.
So the question is, what percentage of an organization's learning interventions should be directly aligned to the strategy? Interestingly, we have some saying 100%, and we have others saying 80%. It's currently a tie between 100% and 80%.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rose. Maybe those who say 100%, I don't want to say there's a right or wrong answer. But those who say 80%, what are they really saying? They're saying there'll be 20% which might not directly be linked to the organizational strategy. And I think they have a point in saying this. For instance, we do run training that's not linked to strategy directly. For instance, compliance, legislative training, process training. Okay, it's still linked to strategy. I think I'm just trying to see things from how they are seeing them. But all that is contributing to strategy. But the point is, we should spend our money and time in what aligns to what makes the difference to the business. Anything else that we put in business will be scrap learning. It's a waste. At business, they are very keen. When the moment you see you're spending on waste, they won't give you more money. They won't give you more money on training. But the moment they see returns, and it's impacting on what really matters to them, client centricity, operational excellence, building competitive advantage, scaling their sales, increasing their turnover. The moment they see you are moving the needle to their bottom line, they'll give you more and more money in training, and they withhold. I'm speaking from many years of experience in dealing in as an L&D manager. Good. Any update, Rose? Has that changed?
No, we still have a tie between the 100% and the 80%. Just to give a quick recap on what is the biggest determinant on your L&D decision, whether it's buy or build, still cost is still the driving factor when it comes to the determination.
Awesome. We are going to revisit cost in a very short while. Now, the other fact we look at is the risk. Build or buy the risk. Now, sometimes if the learning content is material to the organization's ability to build and maintain competitive advantage, it's our secret. It's like Coca-Cola company divulging the secret of their formula through training.
Yeah.
So if you give it to an external trainer, and the external trainer, you have to expose them to your formula, and your formula is what makes Coca-Cola a unique soft drink. Then you lose your competitive advantage. Believe me, even if you sign 100 NDAs
And yes.
with the vendors, my experience is even if you sign an NDA is no foolproof that the vendor will not use the information with another competitor. And they'll do it. They'll do it. And there's no legal way of you verifying it's them that has leaked. So it's an issue of trust. So if it is an issue that is you see this intellectual property rights here, there's a risk here, then do it in-house. Don't buy, right? So if it's critical, you don't buy. And should you use really mitigate against, a breach of the intellectual property rights? And that leads us to the next Mentimeter questions. Over to you, Rose.
Yes. So the next Mentimeter question is actually based on IP, intellectual property. And the question is, give examples of learning interventions in which IP is materially critical. Give examples of learning interventions in which IP is materially critical. Just to remind those joining us live on YouTube or on LinkedIn, feel free to join the live survey. The code, the menti.com code, is available as the first comment on YouTube or on LinkedIn Live. So, as John has said, there are those, items that are unique to your organizations. So, the moment you divulge that information, it is no longer your secret sauce. So, what are those learning interventions that you believe are IP critical? So, for example, if you're in the insurance industry and you have a unique insurance product, the training pertaining that product, that should be created internally and not through an external vendor, because you will be protecting the fine print, the secret sauce of that product. So do let us know what learning interventions are. Here we have internal, say, playbooks, yes, business critical
Mhm.
processes. Please continue sharing your thoughts on what examples of learning interventions in which IP is materially critical. Over to you, John.
Thank you for that example, Rose, and thank you. Actually, surely internal playbooks, internal business processes, internal manuals, of course, those are critical. Um, then the last thing which we're going to look at is when we are making a buy or build decision, we'll consider our own internal capacity against the business impact. Okay, before we go to our Mentimeter question, because we're already working on one, don't go to that. Let's not go to that one, Rose. Let me just
Yeah.
unpack what cost versus impact. Let me just unpack that further.
Mhm.
Sometimes when we're making build or buy decisions, we are faced with the issue of cost and impact. And many of you say cost is really the main thing. And when we suffer a budget cut, we say, we can only do as much. So in this chart, I love this matrix. And so I created this matrix just to make this point, cost versus impact matrix. We'll go through this matrix through all the quadrants one by one. Now, whether it's buy or build decision, quadrant one, the cost is low, business impact is low. Will you go for that decision, whether it's buy or sell? Okay. Then quadrant two, the cost is low, but business impact is high. Will you go for that quadrant? Okay, then the third quadrant is this. It's high, cost is really high, business impact is low. Is that the place to stay? No, we move to quadrant four, where the cost is high, but the business impact is high. Of course, the terms high and low are relative. How high? How low? It's relative. Now, if you are to ask yourself, you're making a buy or cost decision, let's assume it's a buy decision. You'll find your procurement department will push you to quadrant one and three, for the very normal business operational reasons. They'll ask how low is the cost? And of course, most organizations have these three bidders rule that
Yeah.
you must have quotation from these three vendors, and we take the lowest. But your lowest quote from an external vendor might have also the lowest impact. It's just cheap, but no impact. And okay, over the years, this is what I did with my internal stakeholders. Actually managed actually managed to drop that rule of three bids. I discussed that with my stakeholder and said, it doesn't work in L&D. You can make us buy cheap, but we are not sure of the business result. What we want to do is do an analysis, an investigative analysis of the vendor's capacity, external vendor's capacity to have business impact in our organization. in terms of the things that matter, the sales, revenue, turnover, in short, the return on investment. So we started giving business to those vendors who showed potential to give the highest return on investment. And that conversation ended. Once the internal stakeholders see value, they say no need. Let's just go. This guy, he may be a little bit more expensive, but we are seeing the business value. Oh, that guy, he was cheap. That other vendor, he was cheap, but that was money thrown in the trash can. Zero impact. So I think I'll ask now, Rosalind, just give an update. But I think the best quadrant to be on will be quadrant 2 or 4, where business impact is high. 2 or 4, and never 3 at the lowest bidder. Rosalind,
So
over to you. To our yeah.
yes, so to give not to worry, to give feedback on our last Mentimeter question, which was give examples of learning interventions in which IP is materially critical. This is what we have so far: data privacy in healthcare, university courses, playbooks, online courses, business critical processes. Now, in consideration of the quadrant discussion that we've just had, if I may proceed to the next Mentimeter question, and the question is: the drive to minimize costs of learning is often the main driver for internal training. True or false? I repeat, the drive to minimize costs of learning often is the main driver for internal training. True or false? Wow. Automatically, we have true taking the day so far. For those joining us live on YouTube, please feel free to use the Menti code as it's currently the first comment on YouTube and also first comment on LinkedIn Live. Please participate in this live survey and let us have your thoughts. The current question is: the drive to minimize cost of learning often is the main driver for internal training. True or false? So far, a lot of people agree that cost is the main driver. John?
Thanks so much. Thank you so much, Rosalind. And I think if we go back to a quadrant, that's where we make the mistake, I think. Because we are choosing to go for an inbuilt solution because we are saying it's too expensive to use an external vendor. Yet, when we look at the capacity of our internal resources and the impact they will have, it's a far cry compared to what if we outsourced that to the experts, people who are experts in the field. So as L&D practitioners, let's not cheat ourselves. We can't be jacks of all trade. All of you are specialized in one area or another of expertise. Yeah. And to imagine you can train everything internally and have business impact, it's not true. We've specialized in our way. And sometimes let's leave what we can do to the experts. It may cost a little bit more, but the business impact will be more. That negates the whole thing of costs. And this thing of cost cutting, we really have to challenge it as L&D people. And this is how I used to challenge it. I would say sometimes you can cut costs to the extent that you are like an athlete who is in the field, who wants to win a race, and yet you have amputated their legs and hands, and you still expect them to win. And okay, it's an extreme example, but it's real. So we have to spend to get business results. Sure. Thanks. Now,
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's another example that is used in the insurance industry. You want the best, but you don't want to spend. So we used to say you want, top of the range vehicle or top of the range policy, but you are not willing to spend the coins that come along with that.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. So I think, let me just summarize the cost versus impact. And I think we'll share this deck with you. Yeah. Shall we, Rosalind? Yes, we shall.
Yes.
So when I think we look at the pros and cons of building, look at the pros and cons of buying, look at the pros and cons of now combine both to get a best practice and a hybrid approach. And I think I've touched on some of the pros, and Rosalind's example has touched on those pros and cons of buying such. That's what we look at, and it's just common sense. And we don't have to force building when it does make sense. There's a time when internal build does not make sense. Let's agree on that. And where outsourcing makes sense, we just have to justify it and build a strong business case for it. Okay, now I see we have just 9 minutes, Rose. Just 9 minutes. And
not to worry.
Yes.
Not to worry.
Yes.
Let us proceed.
Thank you. So in those few minutes, we promise we'll give you tips on organizational academies, how to start one, and when an organizational academy makes sense. First of all, maybe we'll ask a question. Let's go to the Mentimeter question. Do you have an organizational academy in place? Okay, let me first of all define what's an organizational academy. It's a strategic platform for learning that directly links employee development to key business strategic imperatives. It fosters a continuous learning culture and builds critical capabilities needed for the organization's success. So that's the definition of an internal organizational academy, according to me. Now, having headed one in one of the global organizations, the academy I was heading was Salesforce Academy. So what was the main strategic business objective? The bank I was working for was transitioning in its digital transformation agenda from actually a normal bank to a platform business with Salesforce as the main platform. Now I'm sharing this because it's in the public domain. So that was the business strategic imperative, right? So the academy was built to build the capabilities related to that strategic goal. So the people capabilities related to the 167 system capabilities that were going to be installed in that organization to become a platform business. So those critical capabilities needed a very focused, intentional focus to build those capabilities across the organization. So in that particular case, there was a very good justification for an internal organizational academy. So what am I trying to say here? An academy is just a buzzword. It's not a nice to have. It should only be formed if we are driving and scaling people capability initiatives related to a major strategic innovation. That could be, say, digitizing the organization. And maybe you need a digital academy to make your organization become future ready and future proof, as an example, right? Or sales is a major thing in your strategy. So you need a sales academy actually to drive that, because it's a strategic imperative for you and a strategic objective for you in that particular year as a tactical goal. Now we can go to the Mentimeter question. Over to you, Rose.
Question is, does your organization have an internal learning academy? Does your organization have an internal learning academy? So as John has advised, yes, there are a lot of learning academies, but within that learning academy, what is the objective, or why do you have the learning academy in the first place? So when you look at your workplace experience, do you have a learning academy within your organization? So far, the response is no. It seems that
Okay.
the background, L&D most of the time is usually deemed as an expense center and not as an engagement pillar, a key engagement pillar. So I hope we will change the narrative going forward.
Yeah, I think the main conversation is whether to have an academy or not, but that decision should be driven by the business strategic imperatives. But why am I saying this? Because academies have become a buzzword, and there's a lot of pressure from your C-suite leaders when they hear another organization, the competitor has an academy, they say, why don't we have an academy? And so when that conversation comes to your table, I think as an L&D, you must have the right conversation and ask, by the way, do we need an academy? What business problem, organization problem how do we want to solve with this academy? What people capabilities and skills do we need, for which do we need to upskill and scale that upskilling across our organization, which forms the need for us creating an academy? That's the conversation to have. It should not be a nice to have. It should come out of necessity, out of a business need, rather than just a nice to have. We're having an academy because it's fashionable to have an academy. So if you guys, before you rush to creating an academy, look at your business imperatives. So you are right not to have none of you to have an academy. Perhaps you are right.
Yeah.
So there are three arguments for internal academies. I've already talked about strategic alignment, business impact. And when you have an academy, you're also able to save costs through economies of scale. You scale that upskilling across the organization. If it's digital upskilling, using that platform, and you're able to save costs. And people love academies. If you democratize learning in your academy, and I think that's the direction we should move, democratization of the learning other than prescribed learning. Once you democratize the learning, you'll find you will really, really motivate, and it will become a powerful engagement driver. You had Rosalind stats in terms of employee engagement, employee retention. And the Gen Z generation, which will be a major part of our workforce, whether we like it or not,
Yeah.
they like freedom to learn. You can't prescribe to me to learn on a particular LMS. That's not my learning style. I like to learn through videos. It is YouTube. It is maybe reading, Get Abstract, and other platforms, So you need to understand my learning style and give me multiple platforms I can learn from the same content and still achieve the same objective. So that's what I really want to advocate: democratize academies rather than prescribed learning. Prescribed learning is boring anyway. So to summarize, the long and short of which is this. I'm going to finish this discussion by, in 2 minutes, giving you tips how to build an impactful organizational academy. These steps, I followed them in building my academy from scratch, and it worked.
Yeah.
Before you do anything, ask, what does the academy decrease? What return on investment do you want to bring? So you have to be able to communicate using business metrics and business measures. Define your desired state and look at your current state and see how your academy will shift you to that position. The first tip I'll give is this: strategic imperative. It's a song I've sung throughout the discussion. Once you know what the strategic direction you're going to take, you ask yourself, what key people capabilities do we need to deliver strategic objectives? For me, in the space of Salesforce, of course, we knew so that they determine what is delivered in the academy. They're the ones who make the decisions. They determine your budget. They make the decisions. It shouldn't be a top-up thing. It should be a thing that you do collaboratively with your C-suite leaders. Then I want to do homework. There are so many models and frameworks in which an academy can thrive. So some have been built by BCG, I think BCG Consulting, McKinsey, and other, and I think even Harvard. But you can just have a look at those. Which one works for your organization? A good academy is built on a good sound framework that has the following components: 70-20-10 learning, alignment business strategy, showing clearly return on investment, and being able to demonstrate business impact continuously, and also being able to create a culture of continuous learning. Those are some of the components. And of course, you have to make everyone aware. Let me finish by saying this: that a good academy is one whereby demonstrates ROI. Before it was formed, we wanted to move our business from point A to point B. At the end of the day, our academy will be measured against the return on investment, desired against actual. Thank you so much. Over to you, Rosalind, to close
Thank
for us.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John. This has been very enlightening. This has been very educative. And I think one of the key takeaways for me is the change of mindset, particularly, as HR professionals, as L&D professionals, the aspect of prescribed learning. It's one thing we struggle with, because most of the time the pushback, even when it comes to employees and their acceptance to any training, is that prescribed aspect of learning. And therefore we need to make learning more enjoyable, more relatable, more options that are available for people to learn and still get the same result. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing, key considerations when it comes to building, key considerations when it comes to buying, and the need to have, a hybrid setup, the aspect to, even understand and appreciate the future of work, remote working, in-person staff members. So whatever we were so used to having, people to go into a room and learn, it's totally different in this day and age. And therefore, I hope for those that joined us live on YouTube and also on LinkedIn, I hope you found this session very, very informative and relatable and applicable to your day-to-day. We will definitely share with you the deck for you to see the different pillars, the different pointers to guide you on how to guide your L&D strategy. And also, please note that the Mentimeter code is valid for 48 hours. So for those that are maybe joining us now and they have missed the bulk of the, of the live session, watch the sessions, look at the codes that are available in the comment section, give us your ideas, and we will definitely see your details later once you have viewed the session. Thank you very much, John. Asante sana. It's very humbling when you have such insights from your senior colleague who has done it, been there, done that, and they're giving you from hands-on experience. I cannot thank you enough. Asante sana. John, any parting shots?
Thank you for your time. Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for taking your time. Thank you for this. We're all learning together, and let's continue talking about this on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Appreciated. Thank you, everyone. I wish you all a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next episode of Unplugged with Ross. Do have yourselves a lovely evening. Have a good one. Bye.